Good afternoon. My name is Sheila Lamb, and I'm with the Virginia SBDC Network. For those of you that are not familiar with our organization, the Virginia Small Business Development Center is a partnership program between the U.S. Small Business Administration, George Mason University, and local host institutions throughout Virginia. With 26 locations across the Commonwealth, we provide training and technical assistance to small businesses in their local communities. Our one-on-one advising services are available at no charge. Today's webinar, Let's Talk About Cyber Risk Management for 2024, is presented by the Virginia SBDC Network. Watch your emails on our website for more cybersecurity webinars coming in 2024. We are recording today's presentation, and it will be posted on our website, virginiasbdc.org. Due to the large number of participants, everyone's microphone is muted and the chat feature is turned off. But if you have questions during the presentation, you can type those into the Q&A box and we will address them at the end of the session. We have also enabled a live transcript function, which you can show or hide via your own meeting controls. And it is now my pleasure to introduce our presenter for today's session, Kiana Gainey. Kiana is a 20-plus year IT and cybersecurity industry veteran and has served as Chief Executive Officer for SecureTech 360, located in Springfield, Virginia, since its inception in 2010. She is also the cyber industry specialist for the Virginia SBDC. Welcome, Kiana.
Thank you, Sheila, and everyone else, welcome. Happy holidays as we kick off, as we start to wind down 2023 and we're rolling right into 2024. We're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is cyber risk management. Next slide. So thank you for the introduction. This webinar, my goal is to make sure that you have some best practices to be able to manage your risk for 2024. And also, we're not going to forget about 2023. It's some things that you can put into place now that would actually help you for 2024 as well. We'll wrap up with some questions and give you some additional contact information and some references and other information so that you can do some, I like to call it a little homework, but also some things that you can implement. That's some industry-wide things that are available to you as well. Next slide. So a little bit about myself. I've been in the industry for about 20 years, but what I'm super excited about is being able to support the Virginia SBDC in this new role with being a small business advisor. So we're here to help you kind of navigate through this wonderful world of technology, but understanding how you can keep your business safe and also giving you some practical tools and tips. So today, just for you taking the time today, we see that you're serious about making sure that your organization have the things that they need. So thank you and welcome. Next slide. So yes, so again, we're going to talk about some tips. We're going to give you a couple insights to make sure that you, one, can educate your employees so that they can be prepared. And if you're only a member of one, I've been there as a small business owner as well, give you also some cyber risk management that you can put in place regardless of your size or regardless of the industry that you are either working in or that you're supporting your customers as well. And then also give you some best practices for your small business. Next slide. So let's jump right on in. So as you may have known, or if you watching the news, cyber attacks are at an all-time high. 2022 versus what was compared to 2021. You know, there's different cyber incidents that we're seeing every day. You saw that even just recently, we had something that happened with MGM, but just things that are happening in different industries that may not be, you know, they may not be relevant to your industry, but they're all also relevant because they also there to show us things that we can do to be able to prevent these type of risks. And just thinking about it alone, data breaches alone have reached an all-time high. We're talking in the trillions, not millions. When I saw that, I said, not millions, not billions, but trillions of dollars. And this is because as technology advances, attackers are becoming to get more sophisticated and using their methods to be able to infiltrate our systems and exploit different vulnerabilities. You have attacks coming from online. You also have attacks even with your cell phones, your mobile devices. I know we all are seeing with even because it's the holiday season, you're probably getting a lot of different emails from different different folks trying to either get information from you. And so it's really important that you do your homework, and that even if there's something that looks like it's a great deal, in our last webinar, we talked about some of the things that are happening even during the holiday season, where you see an increase of folks using different methods to be able to try to penetrate your small business. So I'm going to give you some best practices for your business. And we'll start off with one that I recommend, which is establishing a strong cybersecurity policy. Why this is important? Because you know your industry better than anyone else. And so as you started to look at what's in your environment, how you're supporting your customers, just how you develop a business plan, you can also develop a cybersecurity plan. And with that cybersecurity plan, also make sure that you highlight policy. So the policies will give you almost a blueprint on what to do in the event of an emergency, in the event that there's a data breach, in the event that there's something that's happening in real time. And then even one of the greatest things, although establishing the plan and having the policy, but making sure that you're testing that regularly and making sure that your employees are educated is also crucial into making sure that those policies and procedures are brought to life. Also, create a risk management plan. You're saying, what is that? How is that different from a policy? Glad you asked. A risk management plan really identifies what particular risks are pertinent to your industry. So if you're in healthcare, right? I'll give you an example. If you're in healthcare, there are certain risks that come along with processing privacy information, having customers' data, or being responsible for the collection of data that someone is giving you, right? There are things that you should put in place to make sure that that data is safe, right? And then making sure that you implement strategies for recovery, meaning if something happens, how would you be able to get that data back? So things you can do if you have a way to be able to back up your data. It could be daily, it could be incremental backups, it could be on an as-needed basis, but making sure that you have some kind of way that if something happens, that you'll be able to recover that data, so that if there is an interruption, it's not about a matter if something's going to happen, but sometimes it's about how fast you can recover and be able to get back to your business, right? And then again, you're going to hear me say this a lot, education is your first line of defense. Even if you're implementing a new policy or procedure, putting together a different risk management plan, a cybersecurity plan, putting together some type of incident response plan and how you're going to recover, making sure that education is at the forefront of all of that, meaning making sure that your employees are educated on what to do in the event of an emergency. You can do this when you first do your onboarding or a new hire as you're hiring someone. You can have them do things like, with my organization, we do rules of behavior. So it outlines all the rules of behavior that I want my employees to do while they're employed with me. Meaning, if I give you a mobile device, these are the rules of behavior on how to use that mobile device. If you get an email address, these are the rules of behavior on what to do with that email address. If you feel like you're a victim of a phishing attack or some type of attack that there's a way to report it. This is how you report it. This is who you would contact. And so if you have people that you are in your organization that may have more information or are more knowledgeable in technology, maybe make that person the point of contact. Or if they need to be trained, there is a plethora of organizations that have different training that they can attend to be able to know how to handle these type of incidents. And then also use stronger passwords. And I know outside of using stronger passwords, not using the same passwords for every platform. And I know it's hard because you come up with this fabulous password and you finally, maybe it's something like a phrase and you have some special characters, and it's easy to use it because it's something that you're familiar with. So not only I recommend you using a stronger password, but not using the same password on all the platforms. So if the hacker does get one of your passwords, it also will eliminate them having passwords to everything, right? Because they're very crafty. If they can get into one thing, they're trying to get to something else. And if you can eliminate that by having a strong password, and then also, putting together a policy that states when you're going to change that password. A good rule of thumb is maybe every 60 to 90 days, making sure that you use about 8 to 12 letters, special characters. Use a phrase that maybe only you are familiar with, that you that you will know, that you don't have to write down and put into a place, and make that another vulnerability, right? If you have an opportunity to use things like multi-factor authentication, most of the applications that we're using now have some form of multi-factor authentication. So you'll usually log in with the password, and then they'll give you a code that will either come to your mobile device or to an email that you choose, or they'll ask you to do things like set up a phrase or something that you can put in, that you can say authenticate that you are truly that person. And then if you have devices or things, installing antivirus software, making sure that those updates for the anti-software is also updated regularly is awesome as well. And then one thing a lot of times we don't think about is securing our physical devices, right? If you are working in an office environment, making sure that you have some policies and procedures on what to do with securing physical devices. If you have employees that travel, making sure they understand what to do on travel with those devices. And how to make sure that those devices are on their persons, or they're kept close to them, so that they're not somewhere. If you think about it, when you go to the airport, they'll say, keep your bags close to you. That's for a reason, right? Because if you leave your bag unattended, then there's a risk that someone can come and put something in your bag or take your bag. So it's about keeping the items close to you as well. And then updating your software and firmware regularly, right? There are always new risks every day to the applications, the software, the devices that we're using. And the manufacturer are also keeping abreast of these updates. So I'm guilty of it as well. You'll see a notification to update your software. You're like, oh, I'll get to it. Making sure that you at least have a method to be able to remind yourself when to do it, or even you can add that to your cybersecurity policy, your risk management plan, to say that you'll update your software every 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, depending on your organization or your organizational needs. And then also control access to sensitive information, right? Not everyone in your organization needs the same access to information. So, and if anyone's familiar with, like, if they work for the government or any type, there's usually like things they call role-based access, which is pertinent to the role that person in the job that they perform. They only need access or need to know. For any of my military folks out there, you only have need to know for the information that you need to do your job. And so if you're the business owner and you can control that access, make sure you put those controls in place so that spillage or that potential risk of that information being assessed by either someone that shouldn't have access to it, either inside or outside the organization, you want to make sure you put those controls in place as well. And then also monitor any third-party users or applications. So if you're using, as I know, there's so many devices or applications that we're using to make our business process run smoothly. So make sure you're monitoring those as well to see if there's any potential risk that's involved with using those third-party applications. If there's any additional users that's outside of your organization, making sure that they're abreast of what your organization's cybersecurity policies and procedures are, what your risk management plan is. If you have an incident response plan, what to do in the event that there's an emergency, to make sure that your recovery is not another risk, right? You don't want to be down for a certain period of time, because that also introduces additional risk to your environment, to your organization. Next slide. So I know I covered a lot very quickly, but I wanted to just start thinking about, what can I do today to be able to, put some best practices in place to manage my cybersecurity risk, to make sure that I have a safe and secure work environment. I know 2024 is like days away. It's just mind-boggling to even think that it's days away. But there's things that you can do today in your year, in 2023, and then, run into 2024 with a bang. I know I'm not a big fan of New Year's resolutions, but I am a big fan of making sure that things that I put in place for 2023, that if I didn't finish it, then in 2024, I would use that as a way to be able to either finish what I start or to either put in new practices of things that I want to do better, right? Some lessons learned. So, use this time as we are gearing up for 2024 to think about what type of training that your employees or yourself can take advantage of in this season to make sure that you are creating clear policies and guidelines to be able to manage or even to understand potential risks for your environment. If you have an opportunity to implement some effective security measures like using things like firewalls and deploying antivirus softwares, or take the time to do some of those firmware updates that we talked about, or making sure all of your software is up to date, and use this time to really look at your organization from a holistic standpoint. See what things that you have encountered over 2023 and things that you want to do better for your organization in 2024, and come up with a plan to be able to meet those goals. And it can be, I like SMART goals, right? It can be something that you can measure over time, things that are attainable, things that are work for your particular organization. And then also, last but not least, the biggest component to all of this, regardless of your size, as you can see, we've had large organizations that have had, that has probably spent a plethora of dollars to be able to secure their infrastructures, and they still end up on the news, and now they have to deal with things like managing their reputation, right? Managing their customers' expectations on how they're going to handle their data moving forward, or what policies and things that they have in place. As they start looking, backwards on what they could have done differently, that does not mean that doesn't. You can do that even as a small business owner, right? It doesn't cost a lot for you just to do simple things by just looking at your organization, making sure that you're implementing simple things to manage the risk, and then also making sure that you're educated and make sure that your employees are staying vigilant, make sure they understand how to report any suspicious activities or emails to the appropriate authority, to the appropriate person that can be able to help, or to be able to make sure that you are mitigating those cybersecurity risks. Any questions? And I think the next slide has some links to some organizations, as we talked about, that you can use to help put together those policies and procedures that we talked about, that can give you some guidance as a small business owner, some free cybersecurity services and tools. We like free. We like free, right? We want to all be something that's budget friendly. I don't like to say free, budget friendly, or no budget at all, which is even wonderful as well too. And then some cyber essential resources. If you feel like you're a victim of like things like ransomware, how to report, what are the reporting procedures, because there is a point where within your organization, if you need to get the authorities involved, if it's something, because sometimes it could be an incident that started off as something that you probably thought was small or maybe unique to your organization. And then you find out that, wow, these hackers were actually targeting all of the medical organizations within a 20-mile radius, right? And if you don't report it, you won't know, right? And you won't be able to get the support that you need, or maybe even your fellow folks that's in either your supply chain or part of your organization that can help support each other, right? So we have to be very proactive in reporting. So these links and resources will give you a plethora of information. Again, we have a lot of information on our website as well. We have previous webinars and recordings that you can also go back. So as we are taking this time to reflect, I know some of us have some leave time and some downtime and as we're enjoying the holidays with our families, we can also start thinking about things that we can do, or take that training that you've been wanting to take all year long. Take that time to educate yourself, because I always believe, I'm a big component of education, is truly the best way to manage risks, because risks are going to happen, but understanding what those risks look like, how to take a proactive approach on it, right? You want to be proactive and not reactive, is the best way to be able to support your organization for 2024 and beyond, right? Because once you put it into place, it's 2024 and beyond.
And just so everyone knows, if you're quickly trying to copy down these resources, you will get these slides sent in a follow-up email for attending today. So you can stop writing because they are great resources, but they will be sent to you. They should go out by tomorrow, Monday at the latest. And do we have any questions? Kiana is here. You can pick her brain. I know she covered a lot of good information, but maybe something sparked a question. And I know she would love to answer it live and could help anyone else who's attending today.
Yes, 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 yes.
We'll give a moment to see if anyone has a question or thinks of a question. And then if not, I do see someone raise their hand. If you could just drop your question into the Q&A session, please, that would be helpful. Into the Q&A box, please. And okay, let's see what we have. Great. So what are the steps to take if you think you might have been compromised? It's a great question.
That's a great question. So I would say, first thing first, don't panic. Don't panic. Just with anything, investigate the potential or the possible incident. So also validate that it was an actual incident, right? You will find sometimes as you're starting to look at like what happened, there's a lot of details in what, when, how, right? And kind of reverse engineer that, right? If you do identify that an incident has truly happened, if you need to get law enforcement involved, if it's something that that you feel that is outside of something that you can handle within your organization, if it's not something that maybe if you have like a managed service provider and the incident happened with one of the applications that you were utilizing and they haven't been responsive, or maybe they don't have a way to be able to assist you with the incident, and maybe it's something like there was a leakage that may have been, you know, could have potential like privacy information. So that's why the investigation piece is so important, because every incident or data breach is not the same. Like it's not a one size fit all. But if in the event that after you do your investigation, you find, hey, I may have been compromised, depending on what it is or what has happened, law enforcement is always a resource. I have seen instances where it had went all the way up to the FBI because it was, you know, potentially was harmful. Maybe there was someone that stole someone's identity, or maybe it was a larger incident that came into play where there was, you know, ransomware that was involved, where a hacker actually was compromising someone's system and stopping operations so that they can get information. If it's someone that's within your organization, I've seen folks that had insider, I call it insider risk management, whereas actual employee, maybe a disgruntled employee that was taking information. So that's why the investigation piece is so important. And one of the best ways that things that you can do, nothing else you take away from this, is making sure that if you have that plan in place on what to do, being proactive, so that you know what to do in an event or who to contact. So I would first say, don't panic, do your investigation, document, and then escalate to the right or appropriate authorities, depending on what happened within that incident.
We have another question. Can you talk about the difference between MS E3 and E5 for cybersecurity, or at least which one do you recommend for the healthcare industry?
So, great question. So when you're dealing with anything dealing with healthcare, of course, what comes into play to me is always thinking about privacy information, understanding what that looks like for your particular organization or your customer base. So making sure that you have an understanding of what that is definitely the best way to be able to be proactive in that as well. There are a plethora of vendors out there that can support and help you navigate that. So if it's not something that you're strong at, I always say I recommend finding a healthcare consultant that has some cybersecurity risk management experience, right? Because they can help you navigate what that looks like for your particular organization and the data that you're using, how to manage that data, what to do in the event of a breach. Looking at that from that holistic standpoint, regardless of the industry, I think you'll be fine. But you have to kind of do your research and understand what that looks like for your organization, because it's very unique, depending on your type of the customer or what you're doing with that healthcare data. But it is one of those, if I had to do a classification, healthcare data is very critical because it has the most pertinent information about a person, right? So it's, your social security numbers are involved, date of birth is involved, weight, your height, a lot of things about you that can't change, right? There's other things that can change, but that is what I like to call infinite data. And because it's infinite data and things that can't change about you as a person, the protection levels for that type of data has to be very stringent. And then there are a lot of regulations. There are HIPAA regulations, there are high-tech regulations that are out there. And depending on what type of industry or the customers that you support, I'm sure they have regulations and privacy policies on how to handle that information. So making sure that you have an understanding of that, you can put that into your cybersecurity risk plan that we talked about, and then put together things like a incident response plan on who, what, when, and how to protect that data, and then educating your employees on how to protect yourselves, right? I know I've been a part of data breaches from healthcare providers, and you get that wonderful letter that says, hey, your information was part of a data breach. Here's a number to call. We'll give you free credit reporting for a year. There's, if you feel like you've been, compromised even more, and you feel like you're a victim of identity theft, here are some resources, X, Y, and Z. So the reason why they have send out that notification is because that's a part of their policy or their procedure on how they're supposed to handle their customers and also handle the data that they have been collecting and storing as well.
Great.
So I hope I answered your question. I know I went up and down the street, but I wanted to make sure I covered all my bases with that, because healthcare is definitely a critical talking point.
Yes. And she just responded, she's responded, correct, thank you. So thank you, Kiana. Yay. Do we have any other questions? We still have some time, so if you all have the time, we have the time.
I saw something, I think someone had posted something about, I think it went away. Let me see, do we enter it? It says, oh, I'm a cybersecurity engineer analyst with a small business. Is there a way Kiana can point me in a direction to get contracts or opportunities? I know we're learning, but I want to throw out there. Appreciate feedback.
If you can answer that, I actually asked him to email help, and I was going to connect you, but yeah, sure, we have the time. If you can answer that, let's do it.
Yes. So yes, I would definitely recommend using the help at SBDC, because they definitely have a plethora of different business counselors that can help you navigate everything from putting together a business plan, from how to market that business plan, on if you're trying to get work in the federal government, what that looks like, what registration process that looks like. So I would say I have been a proud owner of a cybersecurity small business for about 13 years, well, 12 years. It'll be 13 in 2024. I'm jumping ahead. And organizations like SBDC, have been great as far as helping me navigate what that would look like for me starting my business, getting my first client, and navigating that whole federal space. And so I will start with there. But then also, because cybersecurity is so broad, find your specialty. My specialty is risk management and information assurance. So find your specialty so that even in a crowded room, you can be able to stand out and become a subject matter expert in that lane. Of course, there are different lanes and it comes up, they all intersect, but finding your lane and what you're good at, I think also comes across because it's something that you are passionate about and that you enjoy. It comes across to your customers. And then also doing the networking piece, you know, educating yourself, coming to webinars, finding a small business counselor, getting a relationship with organizations like the PTAC was a great, another resource that was wonderful to me as well. So again, a lot of the stuff is going to be, you know, you get out what you put in. And, you know, and what I will say is that great business, you know, travels fast. So look into your network and then of people that probably know you personally. My first contract came from someone that I actually worked for first. And so it was a great transition because they already knew me. So I always tell people, you know, look around you. Sometimes we don't look to our left and look to our right. We're just looking for things that are outside of people that we know. So I will start there as well. So good luck. And I hope that helps you a little bit.
Thanks, Kiana. Okay, so we have another question. Can you explain the difference between phishing, vishings, mishing, and the other ishings that may be part of a scammer's toolbox?
Yes. So phishing, I know we've all been, always said we've all been have experienced some form of phishing where you get an email that looks very similar to maybe something you received in the past. It could be from something or someone that you know. But as you start to really lean in and look at that email, you see things like misspelled words, or you'll see it coming from, it could be Bank of America that's sending you an alert. But then when you look at the email from the sender, it says somewhere at gmail.com. Bank of America doesn't really have emails that end with gmail.com. Or if it's something, always say, if you see emails that say, you have to do something right now. Usually, unless it's something that you have initiated, or even if you initiate some things, when it's something that's going to have you click on something to take you somewhere else, I use a rule of thumb is that if it's something that's taking me out of the original email to go somewhere else, more than likely it's a phishing attack that's trying to get me to click on the link to be able to put malware onto my computer, to be able to start either retrieving information from me or taking some of my information. So that's what a phishing attack looks like. So the ways around that, look at the email, look at the sender, look at the information, look for misspelled words. Instead of clicking on the link that's inside of the email, I'm even though I love technology, I believe in old school ways too. If it's someone that is the email comes from maybe it's a familiar person that I know, if I wasn't anticipating that email, I pick up the phone and I call, hey, are you trying to send me an email? If so, there's a link in the email and it wants me to go X, Y, and Z. I also even educated people to say, if you want me to respond to your email, do not send it from an email address that I'm not familiar with. Do not put in a link for me to click something because I'm not clicking anything, right? So those are the type of things that you can look for. Now, smishing is very similar to phishing. That is when something comes over your cell phone, usually a mobile device. It's a text message. It's also asking for you to do something, usually to click on a link or something. Maybe it's an alert from your bank, or maybe it's someone is saying they're trying to send you $1 million and click this link, or you have won the sweepstakes and you just need to click here. But they've gotten really crafty too, because especially with this holiday season, they have been sending out text messages. Like maybe say if you're sending a loved one a gift and you're looking for a delivery, and they'll say, click here to validate if validate your delivery. No. Um, if you have a tracking number, go to the actual website, put in that tracking number to that website. So rule of thumb is if you receive something that looks suspicious, it's something that you haven't been something that you haven't anticipated. It's no different if you have someone that come knock on your door and want to try to come in. The first thing you're going to be, if you don't know this person, you're not just going to open your door. It's the same principles. We're using all these ishings that's coming out. Techniques are very similar. The intent is definitely the same. So just be vigilant as you are navigating, this holiday season, because I know I've received a lot of smishing and phishing attacks, like, or emails that have just been like, okay, no, I'm not clicking on that.
And I find that I always go with my gut, but I find when you're really busy, sometimes you don't think. And
Yes,
I've
yes,
heard of people clicking on something because they were just busy at the time and they weren't thinking.
yes,
So
yes.
yeah, it's unfortunate, but
It happens. I mean,
yeah,
DHS did a whole campaign. It was called Stop, Think, and then Connect.
yeah,
And this could be just that simple. Even if you don't have the time to really look at the email, stop, go back to it when
right.
you have time, and
Agreed.
then right, because usually something that's urgent and that's that urgent, the person, if they have access to you, they'll either send it by mail or they'll actually pick up the phone and call you. And then you have to even be, there are either attacks now where people are actually with artificial intelligence, where people are actually using voices of people that you know as well. So you have to just be very vigilant and just really stay abreast of all the new potential threats that's within the industry and that's happening organizational wide or just happening, into the world as we're navigating into this new space. As we adopt new things, with new things also brings new threats, new risks. So just being vigilant. But to me, it's always the same type of intent and principles, which is to either cause havoc, disruption, or malware to be able to get to something or to steal your information. I've even seen something that's been really recent this holiday season is gift cards. I've seen it on the news. That was the first introduction. And then I actually had someone that was a victim of, they bought a gift card and then they went to try to use the gift card and the numbers on the back, they were actually taking the gift cards off the actual, from the stores, bringing them back, taking off that silver, that silver where you kind of take off to get the numbers, taking the numbers off of them and then putting that silver back. Crazy.
Oh my
Putting the silver
gosh.
back, right, and then putting them back onto the shelves, and then people were coming and purchasing the gift card. So, just if something looks off, if just like if you see some packaging with food or anything that looks like it's been tampered with, even I remember growing up where they used to put the tamper seal on the Tylenol because people were taking off the Tylenol. It's the same type of concept. So it's like there's no new tricks. They're just using it in technology.
Right, right. We had another question come in. Can you explain, once you click a scammer link, to what extent does it compromise your business operations, such as devices, services, etc.?
So great question. If you find yourself, and I know, like we talked about, you get busy and you click it because it looked familiar. It had all of the ingredients of something that you've done in the past. If you find yourself in that situation, don't panic. Um, this is why it's important to have the incident response. If you have someone in your organization that maybe is more technically more inclined, or maybe can help you kind of navigate what's happening in the background, because every attack is different. The intent may be different. It could be that they wanted to get you to a particular link for you to put in actual information so they can grab that information, or it could be that they're trying to install some malware on your device. So if you have things on your if you have things in place like antivirus software or things that can be able to see if you have any spyware or malware on your devices, to be able to scan your devices. That's why it's important to make sure that you're monitoring your devices, scanning your devices. If you see things like all of a sudden your email is getting very sluggish, or there's something that's happening, or when you go to a site, your information is disappearing, or it looks different, or it looks funny, depending on what the attack intent is, use the resources that are available to you to do reporting. We left some links in the slides that will provide you, but they have like numbers that you can call. There's some tools and resources for some of the things that I just talked about, like antivirus or being able to scan your devices to see if there's things that are taking place on your device. So being vigilant, but being educated on what to do, because sometimes it's not a matter of stopping things from happening. It's a matter of knowing what to do when something happens.
Okay. Any other questions before we wrap up here? I think we've had some good
great
webinar
questions.
Chat. Yeah.
Which is good, because I think sometimes, you know, when you're thinking about risk, it's so it is so, it can seem like your risk are the only risk that's happening, right? But what else, you know, but you'll still think that some things are universal, and then there are certain things that may apply, but there are certain principles that can apply across the board that you can use to be able to be proactive and to be able to help you as you navigate all of the wonderful world of technology. It's here to help us. I am a supporter of it, but it also introduced new risk.
Yes. Okay, well, I think I'm going to wrap us up. I don't see anything else dropping in. Oh, wait.
No
I
more?
might
Okay.
have spoken too soon. Okay. This is a response to the last question. Okay, thanks. You hear shut down your devices quickly. I mean, that's what we do here.
Yes. Yeah, it depends, because sometimes that could be a part of the attack, right? They want you to shut down so that they can maybe apply some firmware or some malware to your device. So again, every situation is different. And so that's why it's very important for you to understand all of the application devices that you have in your organization on what to do in the event that something happens. So it just really depends. It's on a case-by-case basis. Sometimes you'll click on something, it'll shut it down for you, right? And then when you try to restart it back up, you can't get back onto your computer, or something else happens, or so it just kind of depends on the situation. So just be vigilant, understand what to do in the event of emergency, and know when to escalate if it's something outside of your preview. And also, if you have the budget to be able to have like maybe a cybersecurity person that can help you navigate this, like we talked about with the healthcare question, if you have someone that can help you navigate it. I always say, I'm not a big finance person, so I always kept me in a CPA to help me. Like, what do I do when these new laws are changing, these new regulations are changing, right? Because every year something new is happening. It's the same thing with cybersecurity. Okay.
Now I'm going to put out last call for questions. We'll see if anything else comes in. It's great though. I mean,
I love it. So if you have any questions, if you think about it later on, there's my email address. There's the Virginia SBDC website. If you need help, you know, there's a help at SBDC that you can also email as well. These are links to some webinars. We have some links to some other resources and tools to help keep the conversation going, to close out 2023 and to be prepared for 2024.
Exactly. And do make sure you can go out to our website. If you're not already signed up to receive our newsletter, every Monday morning we send out the webinars that are coming up. We try to give at least a week's notice, but sometimes we're promoting for other centers and we don't get them quite as early as we'd like. But if you have the time and you can attend, that's what they're there for. Most of them are free. All of them are free through the state. Through the other centers, sometimes there's a fee, but usually minimal. But we would love for you to be signed up for that so that you'll know. You won't have to keep checking our website. You can actually just every Monday morning look for, actually it's around noon, look for that webinar. I mean, that webinar, that email with the webinars.
So, yes. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Well, I think I'm going to wrap us up, Kiana. Thank you so much. And thank everyone for attending.
Yes.
As we've said, you will receive an email with a link to the recording and slides, so you didn't have to write things down. If you would like to sign up for upcoming webinars or access recorded webinars, please visit virginiasbdc.org/training. This webinar and other SBDC resources are designed to be used in collaboration with your local SBDC advisors. You can sign up for a free and confidential session by emailing help@virginiasbdc.org or via our website. We hope to see you at our next session in 2024.
Yes.
Take
All
care.
right.
Happy holidays. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.